Hello and welcome to the Education Today podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Festa. Today is November 15th, 2015, and it's a lovely fall day here in Scotch Plains, New Jersey, to talk about the education system across the United States. Our topic of discussion today is one of the hot topics in education: standardized testing and teaching evaluations. In recent news, the education field has been getting a bad rap for low-performing students and inefficient teachers. States are now requiring more standardized testing and teacher evaluations to better gauge the progress of the education as a whole. To discuss these topics, I'm lucky to have with me as my guest today current high school science teacher Katie Roberts. We will be talking to her about her experiences as a high school teacher and the changes she has seen take place with increased standardized testing and a new teacher evaluation system. Katie, thank you so much for joining me today.
And thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be able to talk to you today.
All right, so without further ado, let's get started. So, Kate, tell me why you got into the teaching field. What was it that drew you into wanting to do that as a profession?
So it kind of started in middle school and high school just with my general interest in science, just being good at it and really enjoying the field. And then in high school and college, I had the opportunity to work at in tutoring centers and at school tutoring with students of various levels. And I just really enjoyed working with them. And the overall thing that drew me into teaching was just that I felt that I could really help people and others on a daily basis, and then I felt like I could really make a difference. So combining my love for helping others and really enjoying science is what drew me in.
All right, and how long have you been teaching, and what kind of setting have you been teaching in?
So I'm currently in my 6th year of teaching high school science. My first 5 years were spent teaching all levels of biology, from college prep, honors, and advanced placement at a public high school in New Jersey. And then my current year, in my 6th year, I'm teaching at a public high school in Pennsylvania, and I'm teaching environmental science, ecology, and biology. And then one other experience I've had is working for Johns Hopkins in their Center for Talented Youth summer program, where I get to work with middle school age students, and I taught biology and anatomy and physiology in that program.
Okay, you mentioned that you worked in a public high school, so how are the standardized tests and evaluations affecting your job, I guess, in the past and then currently?
So, working in public high school or just public education in general, there are more requirements that the schools have to follow due to state regulations as opposed to private or parochial schools that don't have to follow those regulations. So, currently, when I was working in New Jersey last year, the state just rolled out a new standardized test called the PARCC, and that stands for Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers, for 9th, 10th, and 11th grade students. Overall, I would have to say that the experience for this testing initially was not a very positive one. They decided as a state that the test was now going to be administered all online instead of paper and pencil. So the first few days of testings were pretty much a nightmare because of all of the issues with just allowing the students to log on to the site and actually enter the testing time. So since we had a lot of issues with it, it initially was going to take away from some of the instructional time, but it ended up taking away even more because of the issues we had to deal with being able to complete the test. And then in addition to the PARCC test in New Jersey, students are also required to take a end of the course biology assessment at the end of the year, and then also take midterms and finals. So with all of those tests added together, it really takes away a lot of instructional time. And then currently in Pennsylvania, I'm kind of just getting used to how their standardized test arcs is a little bit different. But they currently take a Terra Nova test in language arts and math, and then they also have an end of the year assessment in biology and algebra 1, in which the biology and algebra 1 test are currently counting towards their graduation requirements. So they need to pass the test or the assessment in order to be able to graduate.
Okay, so based off the information you've given us on changes in standardized tests in both New Jersey and Pennsylvania, how does this relate or connect with teacher evaluations?
So it's pretty much the same in both of the states in terms of the teacher evaluations. They're done where an administrator, multiple administrators will come in and observe the teacher for various times throughout the year. But the major change, and this happens in both states, is that instead of having more of a narrative for the observations, they're now given a specific number score based off of a rubric that was set up. And one of the major changes in connection with the standardized tests is that the students' test scores are now counting towards the grade or the number given to the teachers for their overall evaluation score. So the teachers get a grade based off of each observation, and then they are given another calculated grade based off of how their students performed on the above mentioned standardized tests.
And what is your personal opinion on standardized testing and these teacher evaluations?
Overall, I see the need to increase student and teacher accountability. However, I do feel that standardized tests are not necessarily the way to go. It's really difficult to judge the learning progress of a student just from a test on a single day or maybe over the course of just a few days. Students have many other factors that affect their lives, such as if they have, different home life situations. They could have just been sick that day. Maybe they're having an argument with a friend or a family member, so their overall livelihood can also be taken into account and affect their scores on just that day or a couple of days. So I don't think the test scores are really reflective of how the student is going to be progressing in my class. And I think that overall, since the tests are becoming so more abundant during the school year, that we're having a significant decrease in instructional time, and that's really taking away from the curriculum that we are required to teach the students and for the students to learn.
So based on your opinions there, then, what would be a more effective way to judge teacher accountability in these types of situations?
I think having administrators come in and observe the teachers is still a beneficial way for teachers to improve. I think direct feedback, and the feedback being less subjective and more objective to kind of look at the whole picture, is more effective. And then instead of giving a teacher a negative score, helping the teacher with just open dialogue or workshops or professional development opportunities to really increase their rigor in the classroom and increase their accountability, not just by giving them a number score. And then lastly, I feel that kind of going back to the beginning of when people are becoming teachers, is the actual college education programs need to be more competitive and more rigorous. It's almost too easy to become a teacher. A lot of people are drawn into the career because of the quote-unquote short work days and summers off. And that's what draws them in instead of the overall goal of helping the students to learn. So I think kind of weeding out the people that want more of those benefits and really drawing in the people that want to work hard to benefit the kids and the students is where we would really benefit.
Well, Katie, it sounds like you were very passionate about these changes and the negative effect they're having on student academic performance. Moving forward, hopefully the education system, both on a state and national level, will start listening to more teachers like you who are concerned with the betterment of the education through learning that is done in the classroom rather than through standardized tests.
Matt, thanks so much for having me on today. I had a great time talking with you and being able to get my opinion heard.
All right, well, that does it for another episode of Education Today. Thank you so much for high school science teacher Katie Roberts for stopping by. We will be back next week to discuss discovery-based instruction in science. Until then, have a great week and go out and learn something.